Good morning, everyone. My name is Marty Forrest. My website is Hello Extraordinary Life. I am a life coach, relationship coach. I call myself a relationship coach because it's our relationship with ourselves first and foremost. And what I coach people on is reprogramming our negative self-talk on the journey to loving ourselves from the inside out. That's where it begins. I also do a group mentor program. It's a 6-week program, 1 hour per week. It's 6 weeks. Sometimes it goes a little longer, a little less. We may miss a week for a holiday or whatever. But it's a total of 6 weeks. And that's just an amazing time and a journey of usually a small group of women. Men can come too. And we go through a process of seeing how we talk to ourselves and how we get to begin to heal that and some tools for that journey. And like anything else, it's you get out what you input. So it's an amazing course. I've had several people through, and they all just love it, and they have had some great things to say about it. Today is December the 13th, and I decided I would talk about falling into the rabbit hole. What is a rabbit hole? You know, I think of what was the movie Wizard of Oz, when she went into the rabbit hole and how crazy it got for her in that when she was trying to find her way out. And I just thought of that because when we get into our own stuff, we fall into those places and it gets crazy in our head. Like, that's the rabbit hole, and how far down do we want to go in that rabbit hole? Sometimes we can just catch the ledge and not go all the way in, and other times we're just falling and falling and falling, and we have no idea what to do or how to get out, or it takes us a minute to look and realize how far down we've gone and how miserable we've become or depressed we've become or whatever that label is. I just saw I wrote about something that when I'd spoken to a client about, her daughter had called her had come over. Not called her. She had come over to tell her mom what she thought of her. And the daughter's been in therapy, and I suspect that may be part of the course. I don't know. But the mom's taking it very, very personal and making it all mean that she's worthless and she's now depressed and doesn't see the purpose, and she's not excited about the holiday, and it's all relative, right? So personal story. I posted something on Facebook about a dad talking to his daughter. The daughter got angry, and he was telling her about, it's okay to get angry, and it's how you express it. I just thought the point was important. And someone said, oh, well, it doesn't work with children. That doesn't work with children to lecture them at this age. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm simply posting something. I took it personal. That's my point. Now, I haven't gone into the rabbit hole. I'm at the edge, though. I'm at the edge, and I'm irritated about it because I simply was making a post about how we all have the right to have our feeling. I don't have the right to treat somebody bad as a result of my feeling. That was the point. And so how do we not take things personal? It depends. It depends on who did it, who said it, how deeply we go into it, as to how we get out of it. And there are many, many ways and many, many tools, and it's really it's a choice. And I've seen people where we get triggered, deep layers of triggering, and it looks like it's the person in front of us that we're angry at or that hurt our feelings. And when I examine it and I actually speak to people, we'll look at where else have you been triggered in your life. Usually when you were a child, where else were you made to feel this way? At what point in your life did something like this happen, or you felt like you were criticized? That was my big one, being criticized. Because it's generally a trigger from sometime when we were little. So now we have a new face triggering an old wound. Has nothing to do with this person. They're simply a trigger or a catalyst in our world to give us another opportunity to take a look at what is that? Why am I getting so triggered? And how can I heal that now? What do I need to soothe or to feel better about myself? When I can look at someone and realize I have a choice in the creation of this with them, and I can see that I'm being triggered for the greater good. I don't feel it in the moment. I promise you it doesn't feel like that in the moment. But when I can step back and look and go, what needs healing here? What's the part of me with that wound that just got touched? Eckhart Tolle will call it the pain body, if you're familiar with him, the power of now. And it's called several things. But when we touch that wound, I call it the original wound. When we touch that original wound, doesn't matter who it is, what happens, we feel the same way we did when we were 5, 6, 7 years old. Maybe a little older. It's an opportunity for us to heal. And how do we even begin that? First of all, we have to recognize that it has nothing to do with this current situation. And I've designed it for my healing. I participated so I could heal deeper layers. That means I'm responsible in some way. Right? I'm responsible for the creation of my life and how I interpret things. Now, I can look at this and with this person this morning in that post, and I can look at it and go, well, maybe that's her experience. I don't have children. So it's a pretty easy one, right? I don't have children, so maybe that's her experience, is that her kids didn't do well with lecturing, as she called it. But maybe some kids do. Maybe some kids around 5 or 6 years old do well with that, or they're at least taught that they have a right to express their feelings. It's how they do it. And then on the other side of that, not about that particular topic, but my client that was triggered by her daughter. Now we have some family stuff. We have some really deep wounding that's gotten touched. What do you do with that? How do you get yourself out of that deep rabbit hole because you've been triggered by your own kid that you parented and she's been hurt? And this is that generational wounding. We pass our wounds on from generation to generation to generation, and we don't even realize it. When I look at my parent, I think, well, she came from a narcissistic mother and a pretty silent dad. My dad was a raging alcoholic mother I did not know well, and a grandfather who I learned much later after he died, actually, that he was fairly abusive. And that's the house he grew up in. So now those wounds have been passed to my parents. And then they have their coping mechanism, right? They pass it on to me. I have my coping mechanism. And I don't have kids. And if I did have kids, I would have passed it on. Unknowingly. It's not a fault thing. There's no fault here. There's no blame here. It's simply what is so that we pass our wounds on because we don't know any different until we know something different. That's why I do these. That's why I have these calls. That's why I coach. That's why I do mentor program, because I want to be able to pass along some of these tools, a lot of these tools, as many as I can, to help someone else on their journey understand that there is no blame and no fault in this life. It's simply a choice, and I get to be responsible now. And I get to choose to heal those wounds. Okay, circling back to my client. I asked her the question of, I forgot. Let me look at it. I forgot what I asked her. Oh, I asked her if she could take this conversation with her kid, or probably wasn't really a conversation, but if she could take this dialogue as information only. Her kid is giving her some information about her interpretation or her perspective of her mom and how she was raised. As painful as that is, sometimes when we can look at it and go, it's information only. What do I need to do with it? Is it true? If it is, if there's some truth in there, usually there's some measure of truth or some thread in there. It may not all be true, but there's some thread in it that is true. Then I get to look at what do I want to do about that? Is there something I want to do about that? If there is, I can take some action about shifting my behavior or shifting my belief or negotiating with my child, having a conversation with that person, child, spouse, parent, whoever it is, the one that's close to you that's triggered that. How can we be together without compromising my own values and integrity? But how can I behave with you that is a win-win for both of us? Because there's simply some places where there are boundaries, but there's also a little negotiation about being in relationship together. How can we be in relationship so that I don't make you feel this way, and I get to be true to me? I found that when people are saying stuff that it just feels really painful and it feels really hurtful because it's touched the wound, that when I can step out of it and be a little more objective, excuse me, then I can look at the information of it. I can look at, is it actually true? What needs healing inside of me? What does that little child that lives inside of me, what does she need right now? Does he need, the little one, I'll call it the little one, does the little one need some safety, love and care, compassion, maybe a hug, maybe some acceptance? Maybe it's all wrapped up in a big blanket of love that says, I'm a human being. I've made some mistakes. Now I can only correct them going forward. I can't change what I've done. Some things worked really well, and obviously some things maybe didn't. What can I do about it now? Do I want to do something about it? Some people don't want to change. They don't want to do anything different. They're okay with how they are, and you can like it or not. You know those people. I have some people like that in my life. Running their life very much. Or I am, and because I appreciate that about them. But, I am how I am, and I'm always willing to examine and see if what someone has said about me is the truth about me. And then, if it is true, is it working for me? Is it effective in my life? Do I need to change something about that? Because sometimes I like something about me that someone has said. Maybe someone else would be hurt by that same statement. Maybe another time I might have been hurt by that same statement. But the more comfortable that we get in our own skin and the more we own who we are, then some of those behaviors are part of us. And I'm very honest. I'm very direct. I like that about me. Not everyone does. I can't fix that. Am I willing to change it? Am I willing to change or to sugarcoat something because I might hurt someone's feelings? That's situation by situation, truly. And I call it censorship. I don't have much of a filter, but I do have a censor button, and I can censor my mouth and be quiet. Because when I say it deliver it well, but it still may not land well for someone. So there are several things in all this that I've said. And really it's about looking at what's true about you. Is it true about you? Or is it their stuff? Are they projecting their shit onto you? Because we all have our perspective, right? And every single one of us is right. Every single one of us is right based on our perspective. Does that mean I have to make you wrong to be right? I don't have to make anybody wrong anymore. And if someone says something that I totally don't agree with, I can look at them and go, you're right. Let me consider that. It's another tool. You can look at them and go, you're right. Because from their perspective, they're absolutely right, 100%. Do I have to agree with it? No. Do I have to like it? No. Do I have to make them wrong about it so I can be right? No. I just simply get to be human and accept that you're human, and you get to accept that they're human, and we all have our stuff. We all have our stuff. It's what do I take on as my own, like this daughter saying to her mom, but I don't remember what all she told me about what she said, but I know what she felt. Is it true? Maybe. Maybe there's some truth in all that. Maybe it's the daughter's perspective, because I can look back in my own world and tell you all the things that were bad and wrong about how my parents parented me. And then I can look at it again and go, maybe it was really because of this. Like I can reframe it, right? I can look at it in a new way. Even though it didn't feel good when I grew up, it was painful when I grew up. I made it painful for a long time until I could see my parents were coming from their own parenting, doing the best they can with me in their parenting and their coping skills. And the things that I made mean, they were criticizing me, they were abusing me, they were emotionally not available, they were whatever I was saying about them. I can look at and go, they really wanted me to be a better human being. Even though they didn't acknowledge me because they were never acknowledged, their criticism was laced in love from their perspective. From their perspective. They were doing it from a love place, from what they understand as love, because they wanted me to be a better person in the world. And I didn't say that for a long time because I was busy being angry and hurt, and I was so criticized and doing that to myself. So I can stop owning their stuff, reframe how they were being, right, based on what they knew. We all have our own story, right? But based on what they knew, they did the best they could to raise me. And now I'm the one breaking the cycle. And hence I'm on this path of being a coach and massage therapist for a long, long time, and always wanting to help you and other people see it different. Gain a new perspective and some new tools so we can all move forward and accept our humanness and stop blaming the world for our life and our problems and how we feel. Yeah. That's what I have for today. Make it great. I will hear you next week. And that is it.